The gun was pointed at my brother, but the finger on the trigger belonged to the man I'd fallen in love with. I know what you're thinking. How does someone fall for a man capable of murder? But you don't understand what I'm about to tell you. You don't know what it's like to run from one monster straight into the arms of another, only to discover he's been waiting for you all along. My name is Elena Moretti, and 30 seconds ago, I thought I knew exactly who the villain in my story was. Turns out, I'd been reading the wrong book. Let me take you back to where this all started. Back to the night I wore my favorite black dress and my least practical heels. Back to when I still believed escape meant running away from something instead of running toward it. Back to the moment I literally fell into Victor Castellano's lap. That collision? It didn't just change my life. It saved it. But first, you need to understand what I was running from, and you need to subscribe to the channel right now if you're already at the edge of your seat. 3 years with Damien Cross taught me that love wasn't supposed to feel like drowning. It taught me that I'm sorry loses its meaning after the 100th time. That flowers can smell like fear. That a man who isolates you from everyone who loves you will eventually convince you nobody ever loved you at all. Tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight, I'd finally saved enough money for my translation work. $2,347 hidden inside a tampon box because Damien would never look there. Tonight, I was leaving. I'd planned everything perfectly. Told him I had a migraine. Waited until he left for his poker game. Called a cab to meet me 3 blocks away because he tracked my phone and I couldn't risk him seeing a car outside our apartment. What I didn't plan for. Damien coming home early. The doorknob turned while I was halfway out the window, my emergency bag already on the fire escape. My heart stopped. Then it started racing so fast, I thought I'd pass out.
Elena.
His voice drifted through the apartment, deceptively gentle. That's how he always started. Gentle. Concerned. Right before the storm. I didn't wait to hear what came next. I grabbed my bag and ran. The fire escape rattled under my feet. My hands shook so badly, I nearly dropped my phone twice. Behind me, I heard the window slam open. You think you can leave me? His voice chased me down 3 flights of metal stairs. You're nothing without me. Nobody. My heels clacked against the pavement as I hit the street. The cab was 2 blocks away. I just had to make it 2 blocks. But Damien was faster. His footsteps pounded behind me, getting closer. My lungs burned. My vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall because crying meant he'd won, and I was so tired of him winning. I turned the corner onto 5th Avenue, and that's when I saw it. An upscale restaurant with floor-to-ceiling windows. Inside, men in expensive suits sat at a corner table. Outside, a black car idled at the curb, driver standing beside it. Witnesses.
Light.
People who might actually help instead of pretending not to see. I ran toward the entrance, my heel caught on a crack in the sidewalk, and suddenly I was falling. Not toward the ground. Toward a man who'd just stepped outside, phone pressed to his ear. I crashed into him with enough force that we both stumbled. His arms caught me instinctively, steadying us both. My hands landed on his chest, and even through his suit, I could feel the solid muscle underneath. I'll call you back, he said into the phone, his voice like gravel and smoke. I looked up. Victor Castellano was nothing like the men I usually noticed. No pretty boy charm or practiced smile. His face was all hard angles and old scars. Dark eyes that looked like they'd seen terrible things and done worse. The kind of man who made people cross the street.
Right then?
He looked like salvation. Please, I whispered. Please, he's coming. Victor's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. His gaze dropped to where his hand still gripped my arm. My sleeve had ridden up. The bruises Damien left 3 days ago were still purple and yellow, finger-shaped marks that told their own story. Victor's jaw tightened. His grip on my arm loosened immediately, but he didn't let go. Instead, his other hand moved to my waist, positioning me slightly behind him. That's when Damien rounded the corner. He skidded to a stop when he saw us, his face red from running and rage. Elena, baby, what are you doing? I was worried sick when I came home, and you were gone. The concern in his voice was perfect. Academy Award worthy. If I didn't know better, I'd believe him too. She doesn't look like she wants to talk to you, Victor said. His voice was quiet, but something in it made the air feel colder. Damien's eyes narrowed, finally noticing who was holding me. I watched the recognition dawn on his face, followed quickly by fear. Everyone in this city knew Victor Castellano's reputation. This is between me and my girlfriend, Damien said, trying to sound tough and failing. We just had a little argument. You know how it is. No, Victor said. I don't. The men from inside the restaurant had appeared in the doorway now, watching.
Victors män I realsed.
One of them had his hand inside his jacket, resting on something I didn't want to think about. Damien took a step back. Elena, come on. Let's go home and talk about this. Home. The word made my stomach turn. I need you to leave, Victor said to Damien.
Now.
You can't just. I can. Victor's hand moved from my waist to my lower back, a gesture that looked protective but felt like a claim. She's mine now. The words should have terrified me. Should have sent me running from him too. But something in the way he said it, the way his thumb traced a gentle circle against my spine, even while his voice promised violence to Damien, it didn't feel like ownership. It felt like a shield. Damien looked at me, then at Victor, then at the four men now standing behind their boss. The calculation in his eyes was obvious. He was outnumbered and outmatched. This isn't over, Elena, he said, backing away. You'll come back. You always do. He disappeared around the corner, and I finally let myself breathe. You're safe, Victor said, still not letting me go. He won't touch you again. I should have thanked him. Should have pulled away and called the police. Should have done any number of reasonable things. Instead, I looked up at this dangerous stranger who just claimed me like property, and I asked the stupidest question of my life. Why did you help me? His dark eyes met mine, and for just a second, I saw something in them that looked almost like pain. My sister, he said quietly. She had bruises like yours. She ran too. The past tense hung in the air between us. Did she make it? I whispered. His silence was answer enough. Victor's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted into something unreadable. I need to go. My driver will take you wherever you need to go. He started to release me, but I grabbed his sleeve.
Wait. I don't
have anywhere to go. It was true. I'd been so focused on leaving, I'd never planned beyond that. No friends left after Damien isolated me from them all. No family in the city. The money in my bag would maybe cover a week in a cheap motel. Victor studied my face for a long moment. Then he made a decision that would change everything. You'll stay with me, he said, until you figure out your next move.
I don't even know you, I said.
His mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. You know I'm better than him. That's enough for tonight. He was right. And that's how I ended up in a black car, driving toward the penthouse of the most feared man in the city, with nothing but a bag full of clothes and the uncomfortable realization that I'd just traded one cage for another. What I didn't know was that my rescue had been planned long before I fell. What I didn't know was that Victor Castellano had been watching me for months. What I didn't know was that the man driving us wasn't just Victor's right-hand man. He was my brother, the one I'd buried 5 years ago. Are you enjoying the story? If you are, don't forget to subscribe to join our growing family of story lovers. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. 3 days in Victor's penthouse, and I still hadn't figured out why a mafia boss needed a translator who spoke 4 languages. The question kept me awake at night, staring at the ceiling of a bedroom that cost more than everything I'd owned in my entire life. The sheets felt like silk. The view stretched across the entire city. The door had no lock. That last part should have terrified me more than it did. You're up early, Victor said when I emerged from my room at 6 a.m. He stood in the kitchen, already dressed in another expensive suit, making espresso like it was an art form. The domesticity of it clashed with everything else about him. With the gun I'd seen holstered under his jacket yesterday. With the cold way he'd answered a phone call that ended with someone begging for more time. Couldn't sleep, I admitted. He poured 2 cups without asking if I wanted one, sliding mine across the marble counter. Nightmares. Thoughts. Those can be worse. I wrapped my hands around the cup, letting the warmth seep into my fingers. For 3 days, we'd existed in this strange bubble. He went to work, whatever that meant for someone like him. I stayed in the penthouse, trying not to think about how the walls were closing in despite all the space. Trying not to notice how my heart raced every time he walked into a room. "I have a proposal," Victor said, his eyes meeting mine over his cup. "I need someone to translate some business documents. Russian, Italian, Mandarin. You're qualified." "How do you know what I'm qualified for?" The question came out sharper than I intended. Victor didn't look offended. If anything, he looked amused. "I make it my business to know things," he said. "You worked for Crawford International. Top translator in their office before you quit 2 years ago. Before Damien convinced me I was too stressed. Before he isolated me so completely that work became impossible." "The documents," I said, changing the subject because that memory hurt too much. "What kind of business?" "The legal kind." His expression didn't change, but something in his tone made it clear this conversation was over. "You'll be compensated. Fair rate. The work is in my office, 4th door on the left." He set down his cup and headed for the elevator. At the door, he paused.
Elena?
"The cameras throughout the penthouse are for security. But there aren't any in your bedroom. I need you to know that." Then he was gone, leaving me with an espresso and more questions than answers. The office was exactly what I expected. Dark wood, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves that probably cost more than a car. The documents were on the desk in neat stacks, organized by language. I started with the Russian. Financial records, transfer histories, property acquisitions. All perfectly legitimate on the surface, but I'd translated enough corporate documents to recognize creative accounting when I saw it. Except something was off. The numbers in the Russian documents didn't match the summaries in Italian. Small discrepancies. The kind you'd miss if you weren't looking at both simultaneously. I made a note in the margin and kept working. Hours disappeared. I forgot about locked doors and dangerous men, and the fact that I was technically a prisoner in a golden cage. Translation did that for me. Made the world small and manageable. Made me feel like I had control over something, even if it was just words on a page. "You didn't eat lunch." I jumped, pen skittering across the page. Victor stood in the doorway, holding a plate with a sandwich and fruit. "I lost track of time," I said. "You do that." He set the plate beside me. "I've been watching you work for the past 20 minutes. You get this look on your face. Like nothing else exists." The thought of him watching me should have felt creepy. Somehow it didn't. "How long have you been watching me, Victor?" The question hung between us. I expected him to deflect, to lie. Instead, he pulled out the chair across from me and sat down. 6 months, he said. "Since the night I saw Damien grab your arm outside a grocery store. You smiled at him afterward, apologized for dropping the eggs. But your hands were shaking so badly you could barely hold your purse." My throat tightened.
I remembered that night.
Remembered making excuses. Remembered going home and wondering when I'd become someone who flinched at sudden movements. "Why didn't you do something?" I whispered. "I did." His eyes were dark and unreadable. "I made sure you were never alone when he was in one of his moods. Made sure your cab arrived on time. Made sure the restaurant you ran past that night was mine." The realization hit me like cold water. "You planned it. All of it. Not the part where you fell." His mouth curved slightly. "That was all you." I should have been angry. Should have felt manipulated. But all I felt was a confusing mix of relief and something warmer. "Dangerous." "The scar on your neck," I said, watching him touch it unconsciously. "You do that when you're hiding something. What aren't you telling me?" Victor's hand dropped. For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then he stood, moving to the window. "My sister carved it," he said quietly. "With her car keys. She was trying to get away from her boyfriend when she crashed. Took her 20 minutes to die. Long enough to grab my hand. Long enough to make me promise I'd save the next one." The pain in his voice was raw enough to hurt,
I'm not a project, I said. No.
He turned back to me, and the intensity in his eyes made my breath catch. You're the only thing I've ever wanted that wasn't about power. Before I could respond, before I could process what that meant, his phone rang. The expression on his face, when he answered, told me something was wrong. When? A pause. Find them.
Now.
He hung up and looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before.
Fear.
What happened? I asked. Someone delivered flowers to the lobby. Roses. With a card that has your name on it. My blood turned cold. What did the card say? Victor's jaw tightened. He can't keep you forever. I'm coming for what's mine. The room suddenly felt too small. The walls pressed in. 3 days of feeling safe evaporated in an instant. He found me, I whispered. Let him try. Victor's voice went deadly quiet. I'll kill him before he gets within 10 feet of you. The violence in his promise should have scared me. Instead, it made me angry. And then what? I stood up, hands clenched into fists. You kill him, and I'm still the girl who needs saving? I'm still the victim?
Elena. No.
Something inside me cracked open. I've been running for 3 years. I've been scared for 3 years. And I'm so tired, Victor. I'm so tired of being afraid. He crossed the room in 3 steps, his hands framing my face with unexpected gentleness. Then stop running, he said. Stand and fight. I don't know how. Yes, you do. His thumb traced my cheekbone. You survived him. That took more strength than most people have in their entire lives. The moment stretched between us, charged with something I didn't want to name. His eyes dropped to my mouth. My heart hammered against my ribs. Then his phone rang again, shattering whatever was building. What? He snapped into the receiver. His expression darkened. I'm on my way. He looked at me, conflict clear on his face. I have to go. Something's happened at one of my properties.
Stay here.
Don't open the door for anyone. My men are outside. Victor, wait. But he was already gone, leaving me alone with Russian documents, wilting roses somewhere downstairs, and the growing realization that safety was an illusion. That night, I made a decision. I was done being protected, done being watched, done waiting for someone else to solve my problems. I opened my laptop and started researching. Self-defense classes. Legal options. Everything I should have done 3 years ago before Damien convinced me I was too weak, too stupid, too worthless. At midnight, I heard voices outside my door. Victor's men changing shifts. At 1 a.m., I found a website that made my heart race. A forum for abuse survivors. Stories that sounded like mine. Resources I'd been too scared to look for. At 2 a.m., I made a burner email account and sent a message to someone who claimed they could help. At 3 a.m., I finally fell asleep, exhausted but feeling something I hadn't felt in years.
Hope.
What I didn't know was that Victor's security system had been compromised. What I didn't know was that Roman, his trusted financial advisor, had been recording every conversation. What I didn't know was that my hope would nearly get me killed. But that's the problem with cages, even golden ones. Eventually, you stop noticing the bars. Until someone opens the door. My brother had been dead for 5 years. So, why was he standing in front of me, alive and wearing Victor's ring? The coffee shop was 2 blocks from the penthouse. I'd snuck out at dawn, leaving through the service entrance while Victor's men changed shifts. The guilt sat heavy in my stomach, but I needed this. Needed to feel like I could still make my own choices. The email response had come at 4 a.m. Meet me at Russo's Cafe.
6 Uhr morgens.
Come alone. I can help.
G.
I should have known better. Should have questioned why someone would want to meet so early, so close to where I was staying. Should have wondered how they knew where to tell me to go. But hope makes you stupid. I ordered an espresso I didn't drink and sat in the corner booth, watching the door. Early morning light filtered through the windows, making everything look softer than it was. At 6:07, the door opened. My heart stopped. Julian Moretti walked in like he'd never died. Like I hadn't buried an empty casket. Like I hadn't spent 5 years grieving the only family I had left. He looked older, harder. His hair was shorter, and there was a scar along his jawline that hadn't been there before. But it was him. My brother. My dead brother. The coffee cup slipped from my hand, shattering against the floor. Julian's eyes found mine, and the pain in them was so raw it hurt to look at. "Elena," he said quietly, moving toward me. "Please don't scream. You're dead." My voice came out broken. "You're dead. I buried you." "You buried a closed casket." He slid into the booth across from me, hands visible on the table like he was trying not to spook a wild animal. "You buried a lie." The world tilted. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. 5 years of grief, of loneliness, of wondering if I'd said the right things at his funeral. All of it crashed over me at once. "Why?" The word ripped out of me. "Why would you do that to me?" "To keep you safe." His voice cracked. "Elena, I was working undercover for the FBI, infiltrating Victor's organization. If his enemies knew I had a sister." "So, you let me think you were dead?" I stood up, knocking the table. "Do you have any idea what that did to me? What it's still doing to me?" People were staring now. I didn't care. "I know." Julian stood too, hands raised. "I know, and I'm sorry." "God, Elena, I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't give me back 5 years. Tears burned down my face. "Sorry doesn't fix the fact that when Damien started hurting me, I had no one. No family. No one to call. Because you were dead." Julian's face went white. "What did you just say?" "You heard me." I grabbed my bag, needing to leave, needing air, needing anything but this. "Congratulations on your fake death. Hope it was worth it." I made it 3 steps before his words stopped me cold. "I know about Damien," Julian said. "I've known for 2 years. Why do you think Victor was at that restaurant?" I turned slowly. "What?" "I've been feeding Victor information about Damien's patterns for months." Julian's jaw tightened. "When you started planning to leave, when you withdrew that money, I knew you'd run. I made sure Victor would be there." The floor dropped out from under me. "You..." I couldn't breathe. "You set that up? The whole thing?" "Not the part where you fell into his lap." Julian's mouth twisted. "That was pure chance. But the rest? Yes." "I don't believe this." I backed toward the door. "You've been alive this whole time, watching me get hurt, and you did nothing?" "I did everything." His voice rose. "Do you think Damien just happened to lose his job last year? That his car just happened to get impounded 3 times? I couldn't reveal myself without blowing my cover, but I made his life as difficult as I could." "That's not enough." I screamed it. "You should have come back. You should have told me you were alive." I couldn't. He moved closer, and I saw tears in his eyes now too. "Elena, the people I was investigating would have killed you to get to me. And when I realized you were with Damien, that he was hurting you, I had to make a choice. Reveal myself and put you in more danger, or stay dead and find another way to protect you. So you sent me to a mafia boss?" The laugh that came out of me was half sob. "That was your solution? Victor Castellano isn't what you think he is." Julian's voice dropped. "He's not a good man. But he follows a code. He protects women and children. He's been trying to clean up his operations for years. And his sister. I know about his sister." I cut him off. "He told me." Something shifted in Julian's expression. "He told you?" "Victor doesn't talk about her. Not to anyone." "Well, he told me." I crossed my arms, trying to hold myself together. "After he claimed me like I was property and moved me into his penthouse like a pet." "He's protecting you. Everyone keeps saying that." My voice broke again. "Everyone keeps protecting me. But nobody asked what I wanted. Nobody asked if I wanted to know my brother was alive. Nobody asked if I wanted to live with a criminal." Julian flinched. "You're right. I should have. You should have trusted me." The words came out quieter now, exhausted. 5 years ago, you should have trusted me enough to tell me the truth." "I was 23 and scared," Julian said. "I thought I was doing the right thing. And now I've been watching my little sister suffer from a distance, knowing every bruise was partly my fault because I wasn't there. His voice went rough. Now I'm watching her fall for my boss, and I don't know if I should stop it or help it along because at least with Victor, I know she's safe. My face went hot. I'm not falling for anyone.
Elena.
Julian's look said he didn't believe me for a second. I've seen the way you look at him, the way he looks at you. That's not just protection. It doesn't matter. I turned away. He lied to me. You lied to me. Everyone in my life has lied to me. I stayed dead to keep you alive, Julian said quietly. Victor's been watching you for 6 months because I asked him to. Everything we've done has been to protect you. I don't want to be protected anymore. The words exploded out of me. I want to be trusted. I want to be treated like an adult who can make her own decisions. The cafe door burst open. Victor stood in the doorway, and the look on his face made my blood freeze. Behind him, 3 of his men fanned out, hands inside their jackets. Step away from her, Victor said to Julian, his voice deadly quiet. Victor, wait. Julian raised his hands. But Victor was already moving, crossing the cafe in 4 long strides. He positioned himself between me and Julian, one hand reaching back to keep me behind him. I said, step away. She's my sister, Julian said. The words hung in the air. Victor went completely still. His head turned slowly toward me, then back to Julian. What did you just say? Elena Moretti, Julian said. My little sister. The one I told you about. The one I've been dead to for 5 years. I watched Victor process this. Watched the pieces click into place. His expression shifted through several emotions too fast to name, before landing on something cold and controlled. You knew, Victor said to Julian. This whole time, you knew she was your sister, and you let me. Let you what? Julian's voice hardened. Protect her? Keep her safe? Give her somewhere Damien couldn't reach. You manipulated me. Victor's hands clenched into fists. You used your sister as bait to save her life. Julian shouted.
Yes.
I used the fact that you have a savior complex about abused women. I used the fact that you'd move heaven and earth to protect someone who reminds you of your sister. And it worked, didn't it? She's alive and safe. I'm standing right here. I pushed past Victor. Anger flooding through me. Stop talking about me like I'm not in the room. Both of you. They both turned to look at me. 2 men who'd shaped my life without my permission. 2 men who thought protection meant control. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice shaking but steady. Julian, you're going to explain everything. Every detail of the last 5 years. Victor, you're going to tell me the truth about why you really took me in. And then I'm going to decide what I do next.
Not you.
Not either of you.
Me.
Victor's jaw tightened.
Elena. No.
I cut him off. I'm done being the damsel. I'm done being the victim. I'm done being the sister who needs protecting and the girl who needs saving. I looked between them, these 2 dangerous men who'd orchestrated my rescue, like I was a chess piece. I'm also done being lied to, I said. So here's your choice. Truth right now, or I walk out that door and you never see me again. The silence stretched. Through the cafe windows, I could see Victor's car idling at the curb. Could see the morning sun burning through the clouds. Could see, for the first time in years, what my life might look like if I actually took control of it. Tell her, Victor said finally, his eyes not leaving mine. Tell her everything. Julian sat back down heavily. I slid into the booth across from him, and Victor remained standing, a dark presence at my shoulder. And my brother, the ghost, started talking. He told me about the FBI recruitment, about the Castellano investigation, about watching Victor for months and realizing that he wasn't the monster the Bureau thought he was, about staying when he should have left because he saw something worth protecting in Victor's operation. He told me about tracking me for 2 years after Damien entered my life, about the helplessness of watching from a distance, about begging Victor to intervene, and Victor refusing until he had proof Damien was escalating. He told me about the night I withdrew my savings, about the panic when he realized I was finally running, about calling Victor and saying, She's yours if you want her. Just keep her safe. Like I was a package to be delivered. When he finished, I sat in silence processing. 5 years of lies. 6 months of surveillance. 3 days of thinking I had any agency at all. My turn, Victor said. I looked up at him, and something in his expression made my chest tight. Everything he said is true, Victor began. But he left out one thing. What? I whispered. Victor's dark eyes held mine. The moment I saw you, 6 months ago with the broken eggs and the shaking hands, I wanted to burn Damien Cross alive. Not because Julian asked me to watch you. Not because you reminded me of my sister. He crouched down so we were eye level. Because you looked at me for half a second, and I felt something I thought died with her. My breath caught. So yes, I've been protecting you, Victor continued. But not as a favor to your brother. Not as some redemption project. I've been protecting you because the alternative, the idea of you getting hurt, was unacceptable. That's not love, I said. That's obsession. Maybe. His mouth curved slightly. But at least it's honest. The weight of everything crashed down. My dead brother alive. My protector obsessed. My whole life, a carefully orchestrated lie. I need air, I said, standing. Neither of them tried to stop me as I walked outside. The morning air hit my face, cold and sharp. Real. Behind me, I heard Victor's low voice. If she runs, you let her go. Like hell, Julian replied. She's not yours to keep anymore, Victor said. She's not mine either. Not until she chooses to be. I stood on the sidewalk, watching the city wake up, and felt something crack open inside my chest. Not breaking. Beginning. What I didn't know was that someone had been watching us through the cafe window, recording every word, taking photos of Julian's face, proving he was alive. What I didn't know was that Roman was already sending those photos to people who wanted Julian dead. What I didn't know was that my decision to stay or go wouldn't matter, because the choice was about to be taken from all of us. The Russian ledger I'd been translating for months? It was my death warrant. I didn't know that yet. All I knew was that I'd spent 3 days avoiding both Victor and Julian, burying myself in work because numbers and words made sense when people didn't. The discrepancies kept nagging at me. Small things. A decimal point off here. A name spelled differently there. The kind of mistakes that happened when someone was moving money they shouldn't be moving. I spread all the documents across Victor's desk, Russian, Italian, Mandarin, English summaries. Started cross-referencing. The numbers told a story. Money flowing from legitimate businesses into offshore accounts. Then back through a maze of shell companies. Then disappearing. Someone was stealing from Victor. A lot. You missed dinner again. I jumped. Victor stood in the doorway with another plate, this time pasta that smelled incredible. I'm not hungry, I lied. You haven't eaten since breakfast. He set the plate down. And before you tell me you're fine, I can see the headache behind your eyes. I hated that he noticed things like that. Why do you care? The question came out more bitter than I intended. Is it part of the obsession, or just part of the protection package? Victor was quiet for a moment. Then he moved around the desk and started gathering the documents. What are you doing? I asked. You've been working 12-hour days for a week, he said. You're going to eat, then sleep, then we're going to talk about what's actually bothering you.
Ivy fine.
He stopped, hands full of papers, and looked at me. You haven't spoken to your brother in 3 days. You barely look at me. You're living in my home, like you're serving a sentence. Aren't I? I stood up, frustration boiling over. I can't leave without guards. I can't contact anyone from my old life. Can't make any decisions without someone questioning them. That's for your safety. That's a prison. My voice rose. A really nice prison with expensive sheets and home-cooked meals, but still a prison. Victor set the documents down carefully. Too carefully. What do you want me to do, Elena? Let you walk out that door so Damien can find you? I want you to trust me. The words burst out. I want you to teach me how to protect myself instead of doing it for me. I stopped. Because what I wanted was complicated and terrifying, and I wasn't ready to say it out loud. What? Victor moved closer. What do you want? I want to stop being afraid, I whispered. Of Damien.
Of you.
Of whatever this is between us. Something shifted in his expression. You're afraid of me? I'm afraid of how you make me feel. The admission cost me. Like I'm trading one kind of trap for another. Like if I let myself care about you, I'll lose myself all over again. Victor closed the distance between us. His hand came up slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't, his palm cupped my cheek. The difference, he said quietly, is that I want you to find yourself, not lose yourself in me. How can I believe that when you won't let me do anything on my own? His thumb traced my cheekbone, and my traitorous heart raced. What do you want to do? Learn to fight. The words tumbled out. Learn to shoot. Learn everything you know so that next time Damien or anyone else comes for me, I'm not helpless. Victor studied my face for a long moment. Then he smiled, and it transformed him from dangerous to devastating.
Julian was right, he said.
You do have steel in you. Julian said that? He's been pestering me for days to train you himself. Victor's hand dropped from my face, and I immediately missed the warmth. I kept saying no, because I didn't want you getting hurt. But you're right. Protection without power is just another cage. Hope sparked in my chest. So you'll teach me? Starting tomorrow. He moved back to the desk, gathering the documents I'd been working on. But tonight you eat and rest. Training is... He stopped mid-sentence, staring at one of the papers. What? I asked. Where did you find this? He held up a Russian transfer document. In the stack you gave me. Why? Victor's expression went cold in a way I'd never seen. This account. I closed it 2 years ago. There shouldn't be any activity. I moved to his side, looking at the paper. According to this, there's been regular transfers. Every month. Small amounts, nothing that would flag attention. Unless he spoke Russian, and we're looking at everything simultaneously. Victor grabbed his phone. Who has access to these documents? I don't know. They were on your desk when I got here. He was already dialing. Roman, my office.
Now.
What's wrong? I asked. Maybe nothing. But his jaw was tight. Maybe everything. Roman arrived 5 minutes later, slightly out of breath. Victor's financial advisor was in his 40s, always impeccably dressed, always perfectly professional. Right now, he looked nervous. You needed me? Roman asked. Victor held up the document. This account. Explain the transfers. Roman took the paper, and I watched his face carefully. There, just for a second, a flash of panic before he smoothed it away. Must be a clerical error, Roman said. I'll look into it. You do that. Victor's voice was deceptively calm.
And Roman?
Find out who's been accessing these files. After Roman left, Victor turned to me. Don't translate any more documents until I figure this out. You think someone's stealing from you? I think someone's been very clever. He looked at me, and something in his expression made my stomach drop. And I think you might have just painted a target on your back by being too good at your job. What do you mean? If someone's embezzling, and you've found the proof. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. That night, I tried to sleep but couldn't. Kept thinking about Roman's face. About the discrepancies in the documents. About the fact that I'd just become a liability to someone powerful enough to steal from Victor Castellano. At 2 a.m., I heard voices in the hallway. Victor's low and angry. I don't care what it takes. Find out who's been in my office. Julian's response was too quiet to hear. Then Victor again. If someone touches her, there won't be enough of them left to identify. I lay in the dark, holding my breath, wondering when protection started feeling less like safety and more like being the center of a target. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Stop digging. Last warning. A friend. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Someone was watching. Someone knew what I'd found. Someone wanted me to stop looking, which meant there was more to find. I opened my laptop and started searching through every document I'd translated, looking for the pattern I'd missed. What I didn't know was that Roman had already made a phone call. What I didn't know was that the next 24 hours would be my last chance to walk away. What I didn't know was that my decision to keep digging would lead to a warehouse, zip ties, and the choice between revenge and freedom. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, Victor had to teach me how to fight back. I woke up in chains, but the worst part? I'd walked into that room by myself. 24 hours earlier, Victor had kept his promise. First lesson, he'd said in the penthouse gym at dawn. Never assume someone won't hit you just because they smile. Then he swept my legs out from under me before I could blink. I hit the mat hard, air rushing from my lungs. Above me, Victor extended a hand. Again, I gasped, ignoring his hand and pushing myself up. His mouth curved. Good. Anger makes you faster. We trained for 3 hours. He showed me pressure points, how to break holds, where to hit to disable someone twice my size. Julian joined us halfway through, and watching them move together was like watching a language I didn't speak. Your brother taught you some of this, Victor observed as I successfully blocked one of his strikes. The muscle memory's there. I glanced at Julian, who looked uncomfortable. Before he died. When I was 17, I thought you'd need it eventually, Julian said quietly. I just didn't think it would be, because I wasn't there. The guilt in his voice made my chest ache, but I wasn't ready to forgive him yet. Wasn't sure I ever would be. By hour 4, I was exhausted, but felt something I hadn't felt in years. Powerful. Tomorrow, we start with firearms, Victor said, tossing me a water bottle. But for today,
His phone rang.
he checked the screen and his expression shifted. I need to take this. He walked away, voice dropping too low to hear. Julian moved closer, wrapping my hands where the tape had rubbed them raw. You're doing good, he said. Better than I expected. You expected me to fail? I expected you to quit. He met my eyes. You never did like admitting when something hurt. Before I could respond, Victor returned. His face was carved from stone. What happened? Julian asked. One of our suppliers got hit. Someone knew the route, the timing, everything. Victor's jaw tightened. This is the 3rd shipment this month. Inside job, Julian said. Has to be.
Victor looked at me.
Elena, I need you to stop translating those documents. It's not safe. I'm not stopping. I unwrapped my hands. I'm close to finding the pattern. Just give me another day. Absolutely not. You don't get to decide that. I stepped closer. You said you wanted me to have power. Well, this is power. Let me use it. We stared at each other, neither backing down. Finally, Victor's phone rang again. This conversation isn't over, he said, then answered. What? I watched his expression change from angry to shocked to something colder than I'd ever seen. When? A pause. I'm on my way. He hung up and looked at Julian. Fire at the waterfront property. 3 of our guys are trapped inside. Julian was already moving. I'll get the car. Victor turned to me. Stay here. Don't open the door for anyone except. I know. I cut him off. I'll be fine. He hesitated, then pulled me into a brief, fierce embrace that ended before I could react. Be careful, I whispered against his chest. Always am. Then they were gone, and I was alone with documents, suspicions, and the growing feeling that something was wrong. I worked for 2 more hours, cross-referencing every transaction. The pattern finally emerged. Roman's signature on documents that should have required Victor's approval. Dates that aligned with the shipment hits. Accounts that traced back to. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Emergency. Julian's been shot. St. Mary's Hospital.
Come now.
Roman. My blood went cold. I grabbed my jacket and ran for the elevator. Victor's warnings forgotten in my panic. The car Roman had sent was waiting outside. I climbed in, hands shaking. How bad is he? I asked the driver. He didn't answer. Just pulled into traffic. Hey, I asked. That's when I saw it. The child lock on the door. The modified partition between front and back. The way we were heading away from St. Mary's. Where are you taking me? The driver's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror, and I knew. I grabbed for my phone.
Dead.
Not out of battery, actually disabled. When had that happened? Let me out, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Can't do that, Miss Moretti. The warehouse district loomed ahead. My heart hammered against my ribs. Every self-defense move Victor taught me ran through my head, but none of them worked when you were trapped in a moving car. We pulled into an abandoned building. The door opened from the outside, and there he was. Damien Cross, smiling like he'd won. Hello, baby, he said. Miss me? I tried to run. Got 3 steps before someone grabbed me from behind. Not Damien, someone bigger. They zip-tied my wrists before I could scream. Easy now, Damien cooed, stepping closer. We're just going to have a little talk. They dragged me inside. The warehouse smelled like rust and mold. In the center, a single chair waited under a flickering light. They pushed me into it, secured my ankles, and then Damien crouched in front of me, his face inches from mine. 2 months, he said conversationally. 2 months you've been playing house with that criminal. Did you really think I wouldn't find you? Victor will kill you, I said, proud that my voice didn't shake. Victor is busy watching his property burn. Damien stroked my cheek, and I jerked away. Funny how that happened right when I needed him distracted. The door opened. Roman walked in and my stomach dropped. You, I breathed. Me. Roman smiled without warmth.
Sorry, Elena.
Nothing personal, but you were getting too close to my operation. You're stealing from Victor. Borrowing. Roman pulled up a chair. With interest technically, though he'll never know since you won't be around to tell him. Why involve Damien? Cousins. Damien grinned. Roman here told me where to find you. Said he'd help me get you back if I helped him solve a little problem. Me. I realized. I'm the problem. You're too smart for your own good. Roman leaned forward. Those documents you translated? They prove I've been embezzling for 3 years. $500,000. And you were about to hand Victor the proof. My mind raced. The ledger. The account numbers. Everything clicked into place. He'll figure it out anyway, I said. Eventually. Roman shrugged. But by then, I'll be in the Cayman Islands with my retirement fund. And you'll be, well. Damien has plans. Damien's hand tightened on my shoulder. We're going to disappear, baby. Just like you wanted. Mexico, maybe. Somewhere Victor can't find us. I'd rather die. His grip turned painful. That can be arranged too. Fear clawed at my throat, but underneath it, something else burned.
Rage.
3 years of abuse. 5 years of manipulation. 2 months of being protected like I was breakable. I was done being the victim. You made a mistake, I said quietly. Damien laughed. Really? What's that? You assumed I came alone. His smile faltered. You did. Roman tracked your phone. My phone. I met his eyes. Not Julian's. The confusion on his face would have been funny if I wasn't zip-tied to a chair. What are you talking about? Julian gave me a second phone. Taught me to keep it hidden. The lie came easily. He said if anything happened, if I ever felt unsafe, I should trigger the GPS. I watched doubt creep into Damien's expression. Roman stood up, checking his own phone. She's bluffing, Roman said, but he didn't sound certain. Am I? I smiled, channeling every ounce of confidence I didn't feel. You really think Victor would let me out of his sight without a backup plan? The truth was I had no backup plan. No second phone.
No GPS.
But they didn't know that. Check her, Roman snapped. Damien searched me roughly, finding nothing. Because there was nothing to find. But I'd bought myself time. And in that time I noticed things. The zip ties were plastic, not metal. Tight, but not impossible. The chair was old. The wood weakened. The door they'd dragged me through was 20 feet away. And most importantly, Julian had taught me more than just strikes and blocks. He'd taught me how to think under pressure. How to look for opportunities. How to turn fear into fuel. Nothing, Damien said, stepping back. Roman's phone rang. He answered, then went pale. What do you mean the fire's out? How long ago? My heart soared. Victor was free. Which meant, we need to move, Roman said.
Now.
They'll track her here eventually. Give me 5 minutes with her first, Damien said, and the look in his eyes made my skin crawl. Roman hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. Then we disappear. He walked out, leaving me alone with my nightmare. Damien circled the chair slowly. 2 months. 2 months of wondering if he touched you. If you let him. That's none of your business. His hand cracked across my face. The pain exploded bright and hot, but I didn't cry out. Wouldn't give him the satisfaction. Everything about you is my business, he hissed. You're mine. You'll always be mine. I was never yours. I tasted blood. I was just too scared to leave. And now. He grabbed my face, forcing me to look at him. You're brave now? Because some mobster taught you to throw a punch.
No.
I smiled through the blood. Because I finally remembered something. What's that? That I'm smarter than you. I'd been working my wrists against the zip tie the whole time he was talking. The plastic bit into my skin, warm blood making it slippery. But Julian's training paid off. The tie loosened. Just a little. Just enough. Damien pulled out his phone. I'm going to record this. Send it to Victor. Show him what happens when someone takes what's mine. He raised the phone, and I made my move. The zip tie snapped. I grabbed the chair leg, twisted, and felt the old wood crack. My hands came free just as Damien realized what was happening. I drove my palm into his nose the way Victor taught me. Felt the cartilage break. His scream filled the warehouse. My feet were still bound, but I had my hands. Had surprise. Had rage that had been building for 3 years. I grabbed his phone as he staggered back, clutching his face. Activated the camera. Hit record. My name is Elena Moretti, I said, voice steady despite my shaking hands. I'm being held against my will by Damien Cross and Roman Castellano. This is my confession. My evidence. Damien lunged for me. I twisted away, kept recording. Damien has been abusing me for 3 years. Roman is embezzling from Victor Castellano. And right now they're planning to kill me. Give me that. Damien grabbed for the phone. I threw it. Watched it skid across the floor, still recording, out of his reach. Then I worked on my ankle restraints, fingers clumsy but determined. The plastic cut deep, but I didn't stop. You're dead, Damien snarled, blood streaming from his nose. You're so dead. Maybe. My ankles came free. But you'll go to prison first. The door burst open. Roman stood there, gun in hand. Time slowed. I saw his finger tighten on the trigger.
Saw the barrel aimed at my chest.
Saw my life narrow to this single moment. Then something flew through the air. A knife, spinning end over end, buried itself in Roman's shoulder. The gun fired wide, bullet slamming into the wall beside my head. Julian crashed through a side entrance, Victor right behind him. The look on Victor's face when he saw me, bloodied, freed, standing instead of cowering, was something I'd remember forever. Down, he shouted. I dropped. Heard gunfire. Watched Roman and Damien try to run and get tackled by Victor's men. Then Victor was there, pulling me up, his hands gentle despite the violence in his eyes. You're okay, he said, checking me for injuries. Elena, look at me. You're okay. I got it. I managed. I got his confession. Everything. I pointed to the phone, still recording on the warehouse floor. Victor looked at it, then at me, and something in his expression shifted. You saved yourself, he said quietly. I did. My legs started shaking. But I'm really glad you showed up anyway. He pulled me against his chest, and I finally let myself break. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Julian was zip-tying Damien and Roman, reading them their rights with savage satisfaction. And I stood in Victor's arms, bloodied and terrified and alive, realizing that surviving was only the first step. Now I had to figure out how to live. 2 years later, I walked down an aisle toward a man who once terrified me, and I never felt more free. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. The trial took 6 months. Damien got 15 years for kidnapping, assault, and a dozen other charges. Roman got 20 for embezzlement, conspiracy, and attempted murder. I testified at both trials. Walked into that courtroom with my head high and my voice steady. Told my story without crying, without shame, without apology. The video I'd recorded saved more than just me. 3 other women came forward after seeing my testimony. Women Damien had hurt before me. Women who'd been too scared to speak up. We stood together at the sentencing. Held hands while the judge read the verdict. And when Damien was led away in chains, I didn't feel triumph. I felt free. You did good, Julian said outside the courthouse, pulling me into a hug. We'd been rebuilding our relationship slowly. It wasn't easy. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal overnight. But he was trying and so was I. We did good. I corrected. All of us. Victor stood a few feet away, giving us space. He'd been doing that a lot lately. Letting me choose when to be close, when to pull away. Never pushing. Never demanding. It was the opposite of everything I'd known before. After the trials, I could have left. Victor made that clear. He'd set up a trust fund, my share of what Roman had stolen, plus damages. Enough money that I'd never have to depend on anyone again. What will you do? He'd asked the night after sentencing. We sat on his penthouse balcony, the city spread out below us like a promise. I don't know, I admitted. For 3 years, all I could think about was escaping. Now that I have, I'm not sure what comes next. You could go anywhere. Be anyone. I could. I looked at him. What do you want me to do? That's not my choice to make.
I'm asking anyway.
Victor was quiet for a long time. Then, I want you to choose yourself. Whatever that looks like. Even if it means leaving. And if I stayed, then I'd spend every day proving I'm worth the risk. I stayed. Not because I needed protection. Not because I was afraid to leave. But because somewhere between the kidnapping and the courthouse, between the training sessions and the quiet dinners, I'd fallen in love. Not with the dangerous mafia boss. Not with my rescuer. With the man who taught me to fight back. Who held me through nightmares. Who saw my strength when I'd forgotten I had any. With Victor. The business transformation happened gradually. Victor had been moving toward legitimacy for years, but Roman's betrayal accelerated the timeline. He sold off the questionable operations. Converted others into legal enterprises. Real estate development. Private security firms. Import companies that actually imported legal goods. I'm tired of looking over my shoulder, he told me one night. Tired of wondering which of my men will be the next one to put a bullet in my back. So you're going straight? As straight as someone with my history can go. He smiled slightly. Besides, I have something to live for now. Someone who makes me want to be better. I helped where I could. My translation skills became invaluable in international negotiations. My experience analyzing documents caught financial irregularities before they became problems. My perspective, from the outside looking in, showed him blind spots he'd missed. We became partners. In business. In life. Julian struggled more with the transition. His FBI handler wanted him to stay undercover, to infiltrate another organization. He refused. I'm done pretending to be someone I'm not, he told me. Done watching my sister from a distance. I want a real life. He joined Victor's security firm. Used his federal training to keep us all safe. And slowly, painfully, we rebuilt what had been broken 5 years ago. I started a nonprofit on the side. Translation services for immigrant communities. Self-defense classes for abuse survivors. Advocacy work with domestic violence organizations. Every woman who walked through our doors was me 2 years ago. Scared. Broken. Convinced she deserved what happened. I showed them their strength. Taught them what Victor taught me. That surviving isn't enough. You have to learn to live. The organization grew faster than I expected. We opened 3 locations in 18 months. Hired counselors, lawyers, martial arts instructors. Created a network of safe houses. Victor funded it all without question. Said it was the best investment he'd ever made. You're changing lives, he told me after a particularly successful fundraiser. I'm giving them what I needed, I said. Someone who believed I was strong enough to save myself. You always were. I know that now. Which brings me back to the aisle. The flowers. The small gathering of people who mattered. Julian stood at the altar beside Victor, my brother finally getting to be part of my life again. Victor's remaining loyal men lined the sides, surprisingly emotional for people who'd probably killed someone at some point. My team from the nonprofit sat in the front row. Women I'd trained with, laughed with, cried with. Women who understood that healing isn't linear and strength comes in many forms. I wore a simple dress.
No val. No pretense.
Just me, walking toward my future, on my own 2 feet. Victor watched me approach, with an expression that still made my heart race. Love and pride and something deeper. Recognition. Like he was seeing me, really seeing me, and liked what he saw. "You're sure about this?" Julian whispered as he walked me down the aisle. "More sure than I've ever been about anything." "He's a good man." "Mostly." Julian's mouth twitched. "Terrifying, but good." "I can be terrifying too now," I pointed out. "You taught me." "That I did." He kissed my forehead. "I'm proud of you, Elena. For everything you've become." "I'm proud of us," I corrected. "For finding our way back to each other." He handed me off to Victor, who looked at me like I was something precious and dangerous all at once. The ceremony was short. We'd written our own vows. Victor went first, his voice steady and sure. "I can't promise to never make mistakes. I can't promise that my past won't catch up to us sometimes. But I can promise that you'll never be a possession. Never be something I own. You're my partner. My equal. And every day, I'll work to deserve the trust you've given me." My turn. I took a breath and spoke from the heart. 2 years ago, I fell into your lap running from my past. Today, I'm choosing to walk into our future. You didn't save me, Victor. You gave me the tools to save myself. You gave me space to be strong. And you loved me even when I was still learning to love myself. I don't belong to you. I never will. But I choose you. Every day, I choose you. His eyes shimmered, and I realized the dangerous mafia boss was crying. "I choose you too," he whispered. We kissed while our mismatched family cheered. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete. Not because I'd found someone to complete me, but because I'd found myself. Found my strength. Found my voice. And along the way, I'd found love that didn't demand I be smaller. That didn't require me to disappear. That saw my scars and my strength and said, "Yes, this, you." The reception was loud and joyful. Julian gave a speech that made everyone laugh and cry. Victor's men got drunk and told embarrassing stories. My nonprofit team started planning our next fundraiser before dessert was served. As the night wore down, Victor and I stood on the balcony where we'd had so many conversations. Where I'd chosen to stay. Where we'd built something real. "Any regrets?" he asked. "Not even one." I leaned into him. "You? Only that I didn't sweep your legs out from under you sooner." His smile was wicked. "You're terrifying when you're properly trained. You love it. I love you." 3 simple words. But they meant everything because they came without conditions. Without demands. Without the need to control or possess. Just love. Pure and complicated and real. Below us, the city glittered with possibility. Somewhere out there, another woman was planning her escape. Another survivor was finding her strength. Another person was choosing themselves. I knew because I got letters, emails, messages from women who'd seen my testimony or visited our nonprofit. Women who said, "You showed me it was possible." That was my legacy. Not the trial or the dramatic rescue or even the love story.
But the choice.
The daily decision to be strong. To be free.
To be myself.
"What are you thinking?" Victor asked. "That I used to believe love meant losing yourself," I said. "Becoming smaller so someone else could feel bigger. But real love? It's the opposite. It makes you more yourself. Braver. Stronger. More complete." Sounds like something you'd tell the women at your nonprofit. It's something I'd tell anyone who needed to hear it. I turned to face him, including myself 2 years ago. He pulled me closer. "What would you tell her? That scared girl running in impractical heels?" I'd tell her. I thought about it. I'd tell her that falling isn't failing, that asking for help isn't weakness, that the scariest thing she'll ever do is choose to save herself. But it's also the most important. Anything else? That happy endings aren't really endings at all. I smiled. They're beginnings. And hers is about to start. Victor kissed me as the city lights blurred into stars. And I thought about the journey that brought us here. The pain and fear and hard-won strength. I thought about the girl I was and the woman I'd become. I thought about all the women still fighting their way free. And I made a promise to them, to myself, to the universe. Every person deserves to feel safe, to feel strong, to feel like they matter. And I would spend the rest of my life making sure they knew it. That's my story, my transformation, my choice. I fell on a mafia boss's lap trying to avoid my toxic ex. He said, "You're mine now." But the truth? I was always mine. I just had to remember how to claim myself. And once I did, everything else fell into place. So, here's my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between what felt safe and what you knew you deserved? Between staying in a situation that was slowly killing you and taking a leap into the unknown? Have you ever looked at someone who hurt you and finally said, "No more"? Or maybe you're standing at that crossroads right now, wondering if you're strong enough, brave enough, worthy enough. You are. I promise you, you are. Drop your story in the comments. Tell me about your moment of choice, your turning point, your leap of faith. I'm reading every single one. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories about finding strength in unexpected places, hit that subscribe button. See you next time, friends.